All right, boys and girls, we're live. This is Rob here from Rob's School of Music, and I am honored and excited to be having an awesome chat with the amazing, legendary shredding guitar player, Mr. Paul Scott. How are you, my friend?
Hey, what's going on, man? It's
How-
election season
yeah.
and COVID season all at the same time, right?
Yes, it is the perfect storm. I didn't sleep at all last night.
I didn't either.
Cool, dude. So we talk music. We talk all kinds of stuff with gear and stuff. We're a music school. Due to COVID, we obviously moved all of our lessons online. So my first question, and the way I usually like to start off, is being that we're a school and a lot of our students are younger in their musical journey, not necessarily in age, but just in how far along they are. Stage fright, anxiety, performance anxiety, these things that just beat the crap out of them. And I try and find as many different perspectives to give them. So do you have any tips on overcoming that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, stage fright is something that, can be something that can get inside your head, make you play games, make you forget notes, all that sort of stuff. And it comes at different times and in different waves of stuff. When we're out doing our thing and we're the headliner or whatever, there's not a whole lot of stage fright. It's more about stage height. Like we're getting hyped up and ready to get out there and take it on. But, I think the last little battle that I had with that was a couple of years ago when we opened for Tim McGraw. And it wasn't so much that I was afraid to do the thing or whatever, but it was like, he was one of the reasons that I moved to Nashville, and his band, his shows and all that sort of stuff. And we had gotten to have lunch with them beforehand and watched him and his team work out while we sat around and did not work out and, got intimidated. If you don't, I only throw that in there because Tim works out for like 6 hours a day and the dude's like 60 and like he could, outrun anybody under 60 or over 60 for that. Anyway, so when it came time to go out and take the stage, the particular tour that we were on with him was the Soul to Soul tour. And so it was Tim and Faith. So it was kind of both. I'm like, whoa, this is pretty cool, And it's more that you can get lost in the environment or what you're doing. And the main thing is to just try and focus on, you've already done the work to get there. And there's nothing that you're going to fix or do on the stage or 30 seconds before you go on the stage. Don't try to invent new stuff when you get out there, because that'll actually, amp up your stage fright. But just know that if you've put the hard time and the hard work in, see, even when you get those, whether it's a fear factor or even a, you're fangirling over somebody, that you're sharing the stage with, just know if you've done the work to already get there, that's going to carry you through. Take a deep breath. I don't really like the whole thing where, they say, imagine everybody are in your underwear, because then I've tripped up and thought of my own self being in my underwear and other people in their, and that just doesn't ever work very good for me. So just trust your training, trust your ability. And shameless plug, if you've taken your lessons with Rob's School of Music, then you've probably got a great foundation in what you're doing anyway. So you're a step ahead of the curve out there. And just know that your confidence is not just all on you. It's every teacher that you've worked with. It's every player that you've wanted to be like or emulate. All those things come into mind to make you who you are and who the player that you are. So, it's not about, oh my gosh, what if I screw up? What if I don't hit that note? What if I don't, do this or that? It really is a lifelong accumulation of all of this has gotten you this far. You deserve this moment. So take a deep breath and enjoy it.
Dude, I love that.
Good answer.
Dude, you deserve this moment. That is encapsulates the whole vibe. Like, exactly. If you're ready, you're ready. It's going to work. That was very well said. Thank you. So let's dig deeper on you. So what's your story? Like, what got you into music? Was it a particular a record, a show, and how did you get to where you are now?
Yeah, I think that you know, you don't have a show long enough for my road, and I hope everyone else has a much shorter road than I did. But no, I think in saying that, that is what makes you unique. I think one of the hardest things when I moved to Nashville is, or even when I was before Nashville, I was spending 2 or 3 years out in LA and doing stuff out there as well. And everybody's like, oh, you got to be unique. Oh, you got to be unique. You got to be unique. And of course, we all think just because we are someone that's a different person, that automatically makes you unique. But I think it's really your experience and your road that makes you find unique. And I really struggled with that as an artist, in particular at first, because I was like, I'm a good singer, good guitar player. I feel like I can, hang with people in this town or whatever and do that thing. But that's not really what it's about. It really is the experience that you go through that creates that uniqueness for you. So, my story, the Cliff Notes version of it is, I started out in
We froze.
we're
We froze.
reconnecting.
It'll fix it. Tony.
Refresh.
Stand by.
Yeah. All right. What's the average age group of your students?
It ranges, man, but I would say the average would probably be late teens to probably mid 40s.
Okay. All right, cool. So, I took piano early on because my mom knew the old lady up the street that gave lessons, and it was better and cheaper than a babysitter. So that was kind of my first introduction to an instrument, and she made it all about flashcards and stuff that wasn't fun for me. Yeah. So, I quickly rebelled against piano. Kind of wish I would have stuck with it, but at that point, I think it's really important to enjoy the music and the instrument that you're starting out on. Otherwise, you're just not going to last that long in it, and you'll become frustrated a lot more quickly. I think that, one thing you can't get past is the technical side of things. So fast forward to 8th grade, I decided I like girls. I like guitar. I think if I take lessons, I'll probably have a chance with both, so at least one of the two.
Dude, that's my exact story. 8th grade.
Yeah, I mean,
that's very fun.
It's probably not as unique as we want it to, seem like, but yeah. So, so I started taking at my local mom and pop shop music, lesson store or whatever, called Contemporary Music Center there in Virginia, where I'm originally from. And, I started out with a great teacher named Danny Leonard, and he started out by just letting me bring in songs that I liked. And so I thought this was really cool. I'm starting out on guitar, learning songs that I like, and I haven't had to look at a single flashcard or book or anything, right? And I thought that was how the lessons would forever and always be. So he was good because he hooked me in and got me into the instrument, but then was like, all right, now play it up to speed, or let's try and match that tone, or now let's take the lick that you learned in that song and let's transplant it in another song. And what he did is he switched it up on me to figure out there's really no escaping the path of developing your skill if you actually want to be able to depend on it. Kind of take it back to that stage fright thing. Sometimes those scales and licks and whatever that you've done 500,000 times, they'll take the place of any stage fright or nerves or even a cold that you might have, not feel well. Like you'll just sort of go into autopilot and be able to get through some of those moments, when you do that. So, fast forward from that, did what every, guitar playing high school kid does. I start a band with my friends. Right. And, we sort of bucked the system of what was popular and really went back into classic rock, and no one was doing classic rock sort of at that time or whatever. And so we focused on like early Clapton. Nobody, and when most of my friends didn't even know who Eric Clapton was, let alone, stuff from Cream or whatever, and we picked songs that were longer than 3.5 minutes, and really got into, if it didn't have a guitar solo, we didn't play it. So, so we did this Battle of the Bands thing, and we won, and we each got some money. I think it was like $200 split 5 ways or something. But to us, that was a lot of money, Sure. And made money off of music, which, that's still a challenge today, no matter what environment you're in. So, that sort of gave me the okay, I think I like doing this. Well, I was also fronting that band, and then also was in choirs and stuff like that in high school as well. And I had my teacher was from New York, actually. So you guys are all in New York, right? So, yep. I learned music from a New Yorker. So that had to be a help already. Give me an advantage already. But so when I started taking the voice lessons, this interesting little path started happening for me. And I think this is a cool thing for maybe some of your students to realize too. The instrument that you start on may not be the instrument you end up on. And if you can, try to take as many instruments as you can. And I'm going to fast forward even a little further. When I moved to Nashville, I had already had my degree in music and degree in audio engineering, and in addition to all that, and started to run sessions out of my house as a way to, basically made the whole lower half of the house a studio and was running sessions out of my house. But one of the things that I did before I moved to Nashville that really helped me with the way that Nashville sessions run is I took drum lessons. I had never played drums in my life, but I bought a little export kit, and got drums and took drum lessons, not because I thought I just want to be cool at everything or because I really had some passion for drums. I did it to communicate in the studio and on the stage. And when you learn more about other instruments, you might either find out, wow, I'm way better at this instrument than the one that I even started on or thought I really was passionate about. You might have an undiscovered talent that opens up. Or worst case scenario, you become really good at locking in with a band and other musicians, or being able to communicate, if you're a songwriter or a producer, being able to communicate what you want to do. So, this isn't even anything we've talked about, but, being a School of Music thing, to kind of kick it back around to you, like anybody that can and has the opportunity to take multiple types of lessons, it's just going to make you better at the thing you're passionate about. You may discover something new that you're better at, or you're just going to communicate your craft better. So I really highly stress that, because that was a big part of my path. And so my path, bringing us back, sorry to dance all around here.
That's great, man. I love it.
I'm kind of like Google Maps right now. I'm taking you in a lot of different directions, trying to find the fastest route to get to where we're going.
It's all good.
So just hang with me on some of these back roads. But anyway, as I was rocking out the guitar thing, fronting the band, doing all that, taking choirs over on this hand, I decided I really wanted to get better at singing. And I had never taken any lessons in singing. But I'd always had people sort of come back to me about, man, you're a good singer or whatever, whether it was in church or in choir, and I'd sing some solos, win some, choir competition solo award or whatever. And again, the only reason I did that is because I thought I might get a couple dates out of it. But, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Talking about dates, not the awards. The awards were great. They always work. But anyway, so as I started to take lessons, this guy was a classical voice teacher. And I'm going, man, I'm like I'm a rock guy, dabbling in some jazz, pop choir type stuff, but yeah, I don't know. This is, it's classical stuff again. And so he said, just go with me. He said, I want you to mimic the operatic words and stuff. And here's a CD of some Italian guy. Go listen to him and, just try and copy what he does. So I knew tablature from guitar. I knew chords from guitar. I knew some basic, Mary Had a Little Lamb on the map of a staff from guitar. I really learned more from tabs and chords and modes and patterns and scales and all of that stuff at that point. So I really wasn't a big like sight reader. So I would listen to these recordings of opera recordings and then go emulate that in the voice lessons. And I was like, I don't understand this. Like, I don't do foreign languages. I failed Spanish my senior year. Like, this is what's going on here. He's like, just trust me, just stick with it. So we stuck with it. And I went in and did an audition for the Washington Opera Company in Washington, DC. And, because he said to go do this audition. I was like, all right, whatever. So, but I knew nothing about the operatic culture, knew absolutely nothing. And even my voice teacher he played the accompaniment for me to do the audition. So I sing the audition, and they're like, it was really funny because they were like, all right, great. What else do you have for us? I was like, I don't have anything. It's like I've been taking voice lessons for like 6 months. I just finished learning this song, and they all kind of look at each other. They're like, okay, and then my voice teacher's like, terrible answer. Tell them half of whatever it was. And I was like, I can do like a half a song of this other thing we've been working on that's in German. So like, okay, go ahead and do that. So I do that. And then they're like, you don't have anything else? I'm like, I got nothing. Like, you basically heard everything I've done on voice lessons for 6 months, right? And so then they bring me over to the table, and they're like, all right. And they push this contract in front of me for a 2-year contract to sing with the Washington Opera Company with Placido Domingo as the conductor of the National Symphony Orchestra, who was our backup band. That's how I saw it. I was like, oh, cool. National Orchestra is our backup band for doing some operas. That doesn't suck. Okay. And then I was 17 years old, and I'm looking at how much they're offering to pay me to do this. And I'm scratching my head going, I'm a rock guy who plays guitar, who happened to want to get better at singing, that just got an opera contract. This is a strange world. What is happening right now to me? And I bring that up because to kind of circle back to what I was talking about, like, I would have never guessed in a million years that was something that I would have done. But then, if I wouldn't have taken a chance on trying to get better at singing, I would have never had that experience. I would have only been a guitar player that maybe got to sing some backgrounds here and there, whatever, based on my own training. So needless to say, the teacher was great. I'd give him all the credit because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. Went ahead and did those 2 years of that. Long story short, I went on a scholarship to Temple University in Philadelphia for an opera degree, and actually got my degree in opera with a piano minor, which is really funny because if you remember my story when I started out, I hated piano.
Yeah.
Played piano since like 4th grade or whatever that was. And they made me get a minor in it so that I could accompany myself for my voice stuff that I was doing. And I hated it. I failed juries and everything else. It was terrible. So I ended up getting leading roles in those operas. And while I was there as an undergrad, that normally were grad student type roles, and doing some premieres with the Philadelphia Philharmonic and that sort of stuff. So my shift went a complete 180 to the other side, and actually put down the guitars and didn't play for about 3 years, and focused solely on, I guess I'm going to be this opera dude or whatever. I still was very green in knowing anything about that entire genre of music. But it's kind of like when something's working and you're in the stock market and you happen to invest in this one thing and it outperforms how you expect it to go, you kind of go along with it. You don't want to just trash it, right? But there still was this piece of me that knew it wasn't my passion. And I'm almost to Nashville. Hang on. I'm
this is awesome. It's a great story, man. It's so, yeah.
So I'm there in my first year. I'm diving into core classes of college and this opera stuff. So whatever. By my second year, I'm just missing doing original music, playing my guitar, recording, all of these things. It just felt weird because I'm spending 95% of my time in something that I'm not familiar with. And I hated that feeling. If you've ever been to a foreign country or even another state, if a New Yorker comes down to Tennessee, they might feel like they're in a foreign country. You know what I'm saying? It's like, things are a little slower and drawn out down here. That's how I felt when I moved here, actually, a little bit. I was like, oh my gosh, everything's so slow. But that's kind of what it felt like, that I was just living in a foreign land of music and I could do it, but it never quite sparked the passion for me. And so I was in my apartment. I was like, I gotta like find an outlet for this. So I took my box spring and my mattress and I turned it into a little V here and made a recording booth. Kicked myself. I had a 1-bedroom apartment. I kicked myself out of my bedroom and slept on the couch for the next 2.5 years and set up my bedroom as a recording studio with any bits and pieces of gear that I could buy, steal, borrow, buy, borrow, and or sell stuff off,
Sure. Yeah.
And all of a sudden my parents had bought me stuff to like a few little, little nice little parting gifts to go, here's a nice TV or DVD player or whatever, to go in your apartment so you enjoy. I'm like hawking it just so I can get like an SM58 to record a vocal on or something. You know what I mean? And they come in, they're like, somebody steal something from your apartment? Like, no, it didn't stop working. It's the weirdest thing. But check out this mic I've got over here, but you do what you have to do. And so as I did that, I started to meet a guy named Joe Nicolo at a church that I went to, who produced Boys to Men and out of Philly, and started hanging out with him in his studio a bunch. And he had just done the Fugees and Lauryn Hill and a bunch of these other projects that just I fell in love with. And he's playing me like the actual multi-tracks from these sessions. Wow. I'm like losing my mind. Actually, he's played, the first thing he ever played for me was Message in a Bottle by Police, with just soloing out each instrument from that record. And I'm amazing. Going, this is the coolest thing I've ever experienced. That was the turning point for me, that I knew I was more excited by a bass line played in Message in a Bottle, soloed out in a studio, than I was anything that I had actually performed in an opera at that point, both professionally or in school, with both the National Symphony Orchestra and Philadelphia Harmonic in some of the greatest theaters in the world. That tells you something, that not that I didn't enjoy those experiences, but they just didn't grip me the same way hearing back a soloed bass track in a studio on a random Tuesday at 2:00 in the afternoon that just made me lose it, And so it wasn't until I actually graduated with my degree in opera that I decided I was not ever going to do opera again. And had a transition, moved back to Virginia, heading in to teach high school for a couple of years while I was figuring out how to build my own album together and build my own sort of brand together. And all my students actually were like, you're teaching us how to do what you want to do as your dream. Why don't you go do it? And then it was my students actually that encouraged me to finally move to Nashville, do the thing. Came down here as a solo artist and did that and went in and out of different record deals and got to experience a lot of great things there as a solo artist. trying to give you the real fast forward here because I know people probably know me most from LOCASH, and I haven't even said that name yet. That ended up resulting in they were going in and out. LOCASH was going in and out of record deals. I was going in and out of record deals. And for those of you students that may not know, going in and out of a record deal is not really a uncommon thing. Just because you get a record deal doesn't mean that you actually release music. And there's a lot that goes involved with, contracts. Where are you on the totem pole, on the roster? I was in a deal with one company that I won't name that got bought out by another company, and then therefore I wasn't on that roster anymore, and things like that. So long story short, I was out of one while they were getting into one, and had a little song called "I Love This Life" that was like at number 40, and my buddy was their lead guitarist at the time. And he was like, man, I can't do this gig. It's a radio gig on satellite TV on the highway or whatever. They've got this song that's like 40 on the charts. Can you just go do this one off and go play for me? And I was like, okay, sure. I know those guys. Because in fact, when I was doing a solo artist thing, LOCASH were DJs and line instructors at the Wild Horse Saloon here in Nashville. And they actually would introduce me act coming on, and that's how I met them.
Oh, it froze. Stand by, let it rebuffer. We'll catch up.
Let's see.
I hear you again. I don't see you though. You're frozen. Technical issues on the day after Election Day. Go figure. All right, boys and girls, he will be returning shortly. Thank you for hanging out here with us, Rob's School of Music. Really cool stories. You know, it's really fascinating to hear this kind of perspective, jumping from thing to thing to thing. I'll jump back into that when Paul comes back. But, you know, here at the school, one of the things that I prided us on, you know, when we were doing in-person lessons was the ability to, well, if you're doing a guitar lesson, we might jump over to the drum room and bang around on some drums or bass or DJ or whatever it is, the ability to jump from things. Because I think that's what, you know, I started out guitar at age 5, and I stopped. And then in elementary school, it was clarinet, it was piano, it was drums. My dad's a drummer, so I played drums on and off just because there's always drums around. So that's a really, really cool perspective. Let's see. It looks like we got him back here. There he is.
Man, right. The glories of the internet. I don't even. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this story up so you can edit it quicker.
It's good, man. Let it ride. It's cool.
Sorry. So, in short, Chris and Preston LOCASH were DJs and line instructors, line dance instructors when I moved to Nashville. They used to introduce me as a solo act that at that time. So that's how I met them. But anyway, went to go do this show for them to basically sub in. And that's another lesson right there. Like, don't ever say no to subbing. You never know what'll happen.
Yes.
So I subbed in for them, and I was pretty little bit, I don't want to say bitter, but maybe that's the right word, about the last deal that I had that had fallen through for me. And so they were like, man, we enjoyed that. You want to come join us? I was like, whoa, I was just expecting to kind of fill in here. What do you mean? And they're like, no, come out on the road with us. We do like 200 dates a year, and we'd love to have you, kind of thing. And I was like, let me think about it. I got back to them. I was like, no, I'm good, guys. I don't really think that's going to work out for me. They're like, really? They weren't used to people telling them no, you know? So And then I went and talked to my wife about it a little more, and she's like, you should go do that. Like, you might go check, you might be able to go do some things that you'd like to do. I was like, yeah, but I'm gonna be gone over 200 dates a year and all that and whatnot. And she's like, well, if you don't like it, don't keep doing it or whatever, you know? So here I am 5 years later. I went back and told him, I was like, I'll give it a shot, thinking I'd only stick around for a couple months or something. And since then, I have not only played for them and in various different roles on acoustic, electric, played on records, sang on records, sing all the background vocals for them. I've also been tour manager like 18 times. They've had quite a few tour managers, and I usually step in and kind of bridge the gap between the next one. And the last time my bridging of the gap lasted a year and a half. So sometimes those happen too. Again, a thing that I never thought I would do, you know, actually tour manage. But because of my experience in being an artist for 5 years before joining up with them, I knew everything they were going through. I knew what meet and greets were. I knew what radio was about. I knew all of that stuff. So there wasn't really anything to have to teach. I just kind of stepped into that role and also knew how an artist liked to be treated, how a venue liked to be treated, and how a band liked to be treated. And a lot of times a tour manager will come in and they're really good at working with the artist, but not real great at working with the band, or they want to press their way in on a venue and not really do what's best for all of it. So I kind of had a unique, you know, again, my experience is what made it unique, not me necessarily being so unique, but my experience and my path made things unique. You know, and all of that sort of is a weird circle, because how did I start out? I started out playing guitar in 7th, 8th grade or whatever it was, came back full circle. And one thing that we haven't even talked about yet, because I take a long time to say things sometimes, is you can see I've got a wall. It's not quite as impressive as yours, but I do have, you know,
It's pretty beautiful.
A row of some PRSs back there, along with some on the floor over there too. Oops, that way. It's all the opposite way. Anyway, there's guitars everywhere in here. But for me, why do I play PRS? We can get into that in a second. But I will tell you one reason is when I got introduced to PRS, I was still in that high school band kind of thing, and it was a dream. There were no SE models. There were no S2 models at that point. It was all just, it's a PRS. And I remember going into the music store and playing one and seeing, you know, other people in that area, because they're from Maryland and I'm from the DMV, as it's called. And it was like, man, it's a hometown guitar. It's awesome. So I've been a PRS fan way before I started endorsing them. And that's kind of cool when you finally do hit full circle and get to endorse a company that you actually liked before you needed to endorse them, you know, because when you're on tour, you pretty much get your pick of the litter of who you want to endorse, you know, kind of thing. But some will make better offers than others as far as the amount of free gear, how many pieces, and that sort of thing. But when you don't have to think about that and you actually get to endorse a brand that you were already just nuts about since you were a kid, it makes it a pretty easy choice to go with. And then it builds the relationship with that company based on your passion for the product, not just what can I pump out and sell kind of thing. So
sure.
I think I might be done with your original question that you asked.
No, honestly, because that gives me a lot to unpack and pick pieces out of it. So jumping from instrument to instrument, I love that. That's something that, you know, back when we were doing in-person lessons, that I prided myself on with the school I built here, was that each lesson room has, if you're in a guitar lesson, there's a piano in that room. There's a bass in that room. There's a big jam room in the back with everything you can imagine. And all the gear we have here, we have, you know, Fender, Marshall, Mesa Boogie, like all the amps are legit. All the guitars are legit. So we have a display case in the front full of my entire pedal collection, and let people take them out like library books.
Oh, that's awesome.
So,
dude, That's incredible. I will tell you, one of the things that is so unique about that, like that blows me away, because what most, even here in Music City, what most, and I'm not putting them down, but most of your music stores where you would go to take lessons, and even the one that I am so proud that I, took lessons from as a kid in Virginia, the quality of instrument that a student usually starts out on is not very high.
Yeah.
And what that is, my daughter, for example, she chose violin. I don't know why she didn't choose guitar, mainly because she probably didn't want me to teach her. But anyway,
same with my son, literally.
Yeah.
Violin.
See, but her teacher was so emphatic on getting the right instrument to fit her at the beginning. And I think about my first guitar that I rented, because they had a rent to own program. The guitar itself was still only about $149, but that was a lot of money for my mom back then. And so we were paying like $9 a month to rent this guitar, and the action was like this high off the fretboard.
Yeah.
And things would work half one week and not the next week. So the fact that your students can come in and check out, are you serious? Check out a pedal, like a book, and I could go into your place and play through a Marshall and a Mesa Boogie and a PRS and swap out pedals. That's incredible.
Yeah. Actually, a bunch of people still have my pedals because we locked down after COVID, and they've like had them now for 6 months. So I go out there, I see
one on eBay that said RS of music. Yeah.
No joke. Like, literally, I look out on the shelf. I'm like, there should be a DS1 there. What's going on?
Yeah.
But another thing you said that I think is so inspiring and cool to hear is don't be afraid, I'm paraphrasing, but don't be afraid to pivot or go a different direction, to go from a rock and roller to opera back to that. And now, having the different things. A story I'm telling my students, which happened to me just within the last couple of months, is we really dove back into writing music. Myself and my girlfriend's a singer. We've been doing music together for like nearly 9 years. We said we're going to put out music again. So we put out a couple of rock songs. And then a DJ reached out to her and said, I want to remix this song. And and the song's called Outbreak. It's kind of like what's going on in the world. And now like that song was on BPM on Sirius. So it's like my rock song is now a dance song. And now they're trying to sign us to a dance deal. And it's like, okay, it's music. I'm happy,
Go with it. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, there's a few remixers here in Nashville and stuff that you would have never thought that they'll remix a song, and all of a sudden what you thought was one way, they can take another way and reach a whole nother demographic and get you fans and stuff that you never thought of. It's pretty crazy.
It's insane. It's this guy Dave Auday. He won a Grammy for it. Like, he's like legit.
That's
and all of a sudden, like it's a totally different song, and it's okay, cool.
Yeah.
Let's go on the PRS stuff for a second. So, like, how did you? Because a big question that people always want to know is, how do you get endorsed? How do you start working with these companies? Like, was it, because I've told my story before, but your particular story with them, was it that you were, getting out there with LOCASH and things were clicking? Was it before that when you were solo? Like,
so they also send you nice drinkware every now and then. 30th anniversary. Sorry, I happened to realize. No, you know what? It is exposure, and it's kind of the rule of, if you're going to be independent, the rule of 10,000. Whether that's 10,000 followers, 10,000 views on a YouTube thing or whatever. If you can show that you've got some audience of 10,000, you're at least going to be on some sort of artist deal. That may be a half price endorsement deal, artist affiliate, whatever. But a lot of it comes down to the overall exposure. So when I was doing a solo artist thing, my only real guitar endorsement was with Breedlove. And part of that was I had a band behind me. I was playing a lot of acoustic since I was fronting that at that particular time, and the style of music I was doing just kind of called for that. And I was also worship leading in a church and using it in that for a mega church that So it still was visibility, but it was just me. My needs were a lot less too, because I wasn't doing fly dates, road dates, studio dates, and needed ABC, pieces of gear.
Sure.
My needs and my viewership was a lot different. With whenever you're able to get on a tour, even if you're on a lower level grade, whether it's the opener to the opener to the opener to the opener, that's fine because people show up for those tickets too. You're still going to be able to do that, but the main thing is, do you have the ability to show them a calendar of viewership? Because basically the instruments and the gear and everything, they have a value to it. And then they look at what that goes to in an advertising value of it. And then they'll look at what exposure are you giving that? So an example might be Guitar Player Magazine. To run a one-page ad in Guitar Player Magazine is roughly $10,000. Okay. Now you might think that's a lot of money, but if there's 250,000 guitar players that are going to look at that ad, that has a pretty high reach. How else can I reach 250,000 potential people to look at what I do? Well, if I go on tour and there's 25,000 people and I do 100 shows, I'm at 250,000 in my touring of that in that capacity. Okay. Now you might be 3 or 4 down on the tier, but that same arena of people is going to pretty much be there. Half of them might be out getting pizza and French fries right before, while you're performing, before the main act comes on, but it still counts. The other one is if you ever have an opportunity to get on TV, and I would say to your students, they might think, how are you going to get that to happen? Yes, I've been on, Jimmy Kimmel. I've been on Today Show, America, Good Morning America, all those sorts of things. Still haven't done SNL. I still really want to do SNL really bad, but we promise not to lip sync either. But all our TV's been actually live stuff. There you can get on your local news show. Usually like, there's like Fox has like Good Morning Nashville or something here, and that counts. You may not think it counts, but there are within Nashville roughly 2 million people up at that time of morning. Let's say half of them tune into that station of one of the morning shows. That's your local morning show. That counts as exposure. And what you have to do is when you email or direct message these reps of these companies that you might want to get endorsed with, you got to let them know not just the one thing, but 2 or 3 things that you've got coming up, and maybe hit them from different sides of like, I just had a view on videos that is hit 3,000. It's on its way to 10. I'm doing the Fox local morning show with this, and I'm going to be exposed here, and then I'm going and doing a live stream here for 200 people for Rob's School of Music showcase, kind of thing or whatever. And now I've got multiple streams that they can look at and go, okay, that's cool. Well, let's send you something to check out. And they'll usually start out with some sort of demo to check out. So when I moved to PRS, I was actually endorsing Charvel and Fender before that, because I just had an in there to somebody that I knew there. Great company, great guitars, great amps. But when the conversation came up for PRS, you can also leverage things at certain times. And so that's not that I didn't want to be with PRS. Of course I wanted to be with PRS, but it had to be a change for me that made sense. I was getting literally everything that Charvel, and EVH that I wanted. Why would I want to, jump ship, so to speak, and move to PRS? Well, my passion for PRS was always still there. And I still own PRS and still play PRS, even though I was with Charvel and EVH during all of that. I didn't necessarily stop using. I still have my Charvels and my EVH stuff, but I knew that I wanted to check out, to demo, to check out PRS and see, you know, what was going to be in that line. And I guess it basically drew a conversation of how can your experience how can the PRS experience top what I'm getting here? And then when you get some of that leverage, you start to move into the areas of things that you really want. I knew that I wasn't going to give up playing USA made EVH Wolfgangs for playing an import line, for example. Nothing against the import lines. Some of them are fantastic. But that was my point of leverage that got me into a different line of guitars. The other thing that's important when you are endorsing is, can you get it when you need it? There are a lot of companies that will be glad to put a couple guitars in your hands, but if you're out on the West Coast and then the next thing's up in the East Coast and your guitar got lost on a plane, can you get a replacement in 24 hours or less to meet you? Now, those are more problems that come with regular touring. Touring industry is kind of not happening right now, so not much of a problem. But you know, that the support basically becomes a secondary, the next thing in line to the actual instrument being what inspires you. I'll give you one quick example. This guy right here is, Rob has every PRS ever made, so he can probably show you what this one's like, but this is a 509. Okay.
Actually, I have one on order because of you. I don't have one of those yet.
Okay. Yeah. Didn't even know that.
Yep.
I had my ultimate PRS guitar that I had wanted for so long was a 513, actually. They stopped making those by the time I joined forces with PRS. The 509 took its place. And for me, not only did I love the scale of this guitar, but the versatility of this guitar is just unbelievable. It is, if I had to dump everything on my wall and just have one guitar, this would probably still be it. It's got nicks and dings all over it, but because it's been everywhere. It's been on cruise ships. It's been to Canada. It's been to many other countries. It's been in cold weather, hot weather. It's had every drink that's ever been made thrown on it, probably at some point by some fan that thought that was a cool thing to do. And it's been borrowed by other people on stage who have been guest artists to come up. And it always, you know, just because it can do all of your humbucker and your single coil type tones all in one thing, and it always feels really well balanced and plays great. So that's kind of the story behind that one. I actually got the chance to have the guitar I always wanted. That was a cool thing for me, you know, in an endorsement. I'll tell you something else about an endorsement. I'll show you a little bit of show and tell. This is okay, right?
100%. That was one of my next questions. So yeah.
Okay. This I like to call my secret weapon guitar, because this is the Hollow Body 2 with a piezo in the bridge, which basically means it's an acoustic. As it's got an acoustic. I can't turn the right way with the screen reverse. Sorry. The acoustic is pickup as well as the electric pickups in here as well. This was a guitar I wanted to try. This comes to one of those demo type things, right? Yeah, let me demo that one out. And so when PRS sent this to me, I was just completely blown away. Everything from a 335 type sound to the acoustic sound. Literally, my sound guy told me, he was like, I think I like the acoustic sound on this better than your acoustic. It just sits better in the mix, particularly with the finger picking type acoustic stuff. And what I use, LOCASH had a #1 called I Know Somebody. And part of my patch is acoustic piezo verse, one switch down on the downbeat of the chorus, and I'm into full just rock mode, you know, with the flip of a switch between those two patches. Normally you'd have to do like the old Eddie Van Halen style of playing a double neck, right? Well, this is kind of takes the place of it, and it's a lot more comfortable to play. And so yeah, this, and one thing, like a lot of people say, oh yeah, well, PRS, I can't, you're endorsed. I could, if I'm not endorsed, I could never afford one of those. Well, if I'm getting a high-end acoustic guitar and a high-end single cut sound out of this guitar for the price of a single Les Paul, and it's a better Les Paul and a better acoustic than other acoustics. So my sound guy says, I'm not even being biased to the guitar or myself. All of a sudden, this is not a bad investment, you know, and it's a lot less to carry around. So my fly date literally consists of the 509 and the hollow body 2, and I take it in a double gig bag on a plane that fits in the overhead, and I can cover literally every tone you need with 2 guitars.
Dude, I have this one here, but same idea, just the double cut, of it.
Yeah.
But the acoustic sound, you're totally correct. I don't know if I'm too far from the microphone.
Not to get too technical, but what do you put on yours for strings? And
for that one, I use 11s. But I'm usually 10s all around, but I use 11s because I like the way that sounds with the acoustic better. Just the Diodario, like the XL.
So that's and that's exactly what I'm 10s on everything else, and I'm 11s on that. One thing that's fun to try out on that is, especially Diodario makes a great pack. Even though I'm an Ernie Ball guy now. You didn't hear me say this, but Ernie Ball makes this pack. I can tell you that Diodario makes a great pack. They have a pack that has its 11s with the G string wound, and it really even just makes that acoustic thing a little less thwacky and even more realistic. It's a really cool pack of strings to try on there, for sure.
I will check those out, most definitely. Oh wow, this is flying by. Look at us here. Okay, I'm gonna do my rapid fire question.
Right?
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna ask one more quick thing, and then I have to do my rapid fire thing, and then I do have to stop at 7 because I have to teach a lesson for a guy in Montana, which I can't wait to do. Cool. He's awesome.
I got a quick giveaway to throw in there too, if we can fit it in.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. With the PRS stuff, just like you said it so perfectly. Like people, when people like my students know that of me, my friends know that of me, and like, oh, it's just I'll never get there. I can never. And you're totally right. Like Gibson, for some reason, every year just feels like they add a 0 to the same exact guitar. And I feel like with the PRS stuff, it's way better quality. It's something that you can, like, I've heard Paul say it before, like, this is something you can make a living on. Like, it's like Apple. It just works. And that's fantastic. All right, mention your giveaway, and then I'm going to do my quick this or that.
So I'm wearing the Pig Hog shirt also because that is my cable company that I work with, and I'm working on an artist pack with them called a Pig Hog, Paul's Pig Hog pack. Right? I don't have that. They don't have that whole thing ready to go, but it's coming out in the spring. But in the meantime, I'm going to make my own for one of your students. That if you can tell them my social stuff, or go check me out on YouTube. If you'll go drop a comment on any of my videos on the YouTube link, that whoever leaves a comment and does a subscription, I'm going to pick at random from one of those people. So you're entering at random by following and subscribing and all that good stuff on my YouTube channel in particular, and Instagram, wherever you want to go. I'm going to give away 2 packs of Slinky strings so that people can try out some strings, an acoustic pack of strings. You're going to get a Pig Hog 20-foot cable, and I'm going to give you some guitar picks from Dunlop as well. Retail value of about $75 worth of strings and cables, all said and done.
That's absolutely awesome.
Of Rob's School of Music.
That's awesome. So what I'll do is when I repost this, I'll put all your links on the podcast and the show notes, and then on YouTube, and then we'll push that. We'll say it'll repost tonight. So say maybe we'll draw the winner, within a week or something. We'll talk about it. Very cool. Thank you. That's very generous. Thank you for that.
Yeah, man.
All right, dude. So here's my grand finale. I'm going to ask you a series of this or that questions,
Okay.
all musical related, nothing political or weird or heavy. And I feel like I have to preface this with that every time
Yeah,
because
right.
like everyone's like, I got to go. My connection's going. So you just one or the other. It's an ongoing list, so some of them aren't as great as the others, but you don't have to justify your answer. Just one or the other. Okay. Humbucker or single coil?
Humbucker.
Les Paul style or Strat style guitar?
Les Paul.
Okay. If it were a Strat style guitar, a Strat style or a Tele style guitar?
Strat style.
If you were to be playing bass, would you go P bass or jazz bass?
I would go Music Man bass.
Oh, they're amazing. Yeah. Okay. I try and keep it traditional because it's like I can fall down. I'm like, all right, ESP or Ibanez. You know, it's
right.
Okay. I know PRS makes beautiful acoustic guitars. I've loved mine for years. But if we were to choose between Martin or Taylor,
whew, man, that's tough. I've owned both. I've only regretted giving away my Taylors at this point, so I would say Taylor.
Okay, that's a hard question because they're different animals, and if you don't play them, you don't know that. So that's good.
Yep.
For amplification, again, PRS makes amazing amplifiers, but in a traditional sense, Marshall or Fender?
Everything's a copy of Marshall. Actually, Marshall's a copy of Fender if you really want to get back into how that goes. But Marshall made Fender better, so I would definitely Marshall all the way for me on that.
Okay.
EL34s to be exact.
Okay, that's right. That's what I have. I have a Mesa Triple Crown with the EL34s.
All my Archons are EL34s.
Yes. Those are ridiculous amps. I want to talk to you off air about that. I have questions. Okay. Effects, delay or reverb?
Oh, delay.
Okay. Fuzz or overdrive?
Overdrive.
Phaser or chorus?
Chorus.
This is just a yes or no question. Amp modeling, like a Fractal or a Kemper. Yes or
necessity.
No? Okay.
Currently, I will say real quick, I toured with Fractal for almost exclusively for 2 years. And it is a necessary tool. Every toolkit should have a hammer and a screwdriver, and it's one of those.
For me, I was a purist forever, and I was lugging around all this extra stuff. And then we did a gig back in January in Vermont, and it had a backline, so I had to build this crazy pedal board, and I'm like, this is stupid. So I finally cracked down, got the Axe FX 3, and I'm in love. So
and the HX Stomp is not too far behind.
It's crazy, and it's so simple.
IR modeling, I've got one of those too. Been using that, and just I can't believe I'm that blown away by it.
I know I feel dirty saying it, but it's coming a long way.
Secret though, I will throw a quick secret sauce in there. If you don't have the money for that, the free amp from STL Tones, best amp inside the box for recording, and for Steven Slate Guitars, THU guitar, $9.99 a month. You can't beat it. Yeah, so there are other ways to get emulations that are pretty awesome for next to nothing.
Totally agree. And we do a production class here, and I'm always showing people like you can spend $2,000 or you can get free plugins. There's definitely, it's here. It's in your hands.
That's it.
Beatles or Stones?
Stones.
In the realm of the Beatles, John or Paul?
Paul.
There you go. That's the right answer. Zeppelin or Floyd?
Zeppelin.
Dark Side or The Wall?
The Wall.
Pearl Jam or Nirvana?
Pearl Jam.
You got all my answers, man. We're like best friends. And then since we're running out,
beards too, so
Yeah. All right, in the Van Halen world, Sammy Hagar or David Lee Roth?
Definitely David Lee Roth.
Okay, those are my questions, man. Thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you. Appreciate it, man.
Your story is like one of the most unique, awesome, like I'm going to retell that to people for days now because I thought that was really like you just never know where it's going to take you and just persevere and see your way through. And now you're playing epic stages and killing it. So thank you so much, dude. We'll post the giveaway. You stay safe. And hopefully whenever there's a NAMM again, hopefully we'll get to hang out there.
Yes. We're due for some Denny's breakfast at 2 a.m. We can do that.
I'm definitely down. Definitely down. All right, dude. Be well. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Take
See
it
ya.
easy.